afternoon, and welcome to our webinar on Recession-Proofing Your Business. I'm Charlie O'Brien, Director of Client Experience and Success at the Client Fund, where we provide capital to small business owners and entrepreneurs that struggle to access capital from traditional sources. With the turbulence in the world and risk of a fluctuating economy, we thought this was a good topic to discuss while presenting it with a focus on small business. Small businesses can be among the most vulnerable in a fluctuating economy. So we put this panel together to offer some insight and tools to be able to hopefully help our small businesses withstand turbulent times, as well as to overall learn some practices to help them make them more resilient. The speakers that are presenting today will approach the topic from different perspectives, which will be made obvious as I tell you a little bit more about them. First to present will be Stephen Spector. Stephen is one of Client Fund's consultants and is one of the owners of Spector Business Advisor Services. He has an MBA and over 30 years experience in marketing, sales, finance, business development, and strategy. He has been a small business advisor for more than 10 years and a former planning board chair and liaison to Chamber of Commerce. Next to present will be Nick Correa, Vice President, Small Business Community Officer at Bank of America, where he works with small business owners and community organizations to provide access to capital, resources, and financial education to emerging businesses. He currently serves as on the Committee for Economic Development for the Greater Savannah Area Black Chamber of Commerce, the Steering Committee for Ignite Advantage Minority Co-op, and as a financial advisor for the Low Country Minority Business Accelerator. Closing the show will be Chris Quinn, COO and co-owner of eHouse Studio, a rapidly growing small business whose mission is to create fantastic experiences and build strong relationships with their clients and teams. They do this by focusing on being a customer-first agency that builds, optimizes, and grows custom e-commerce websites. Chris has nearly 20 years of experience with a passion for lifting women up in their personal and professional confidence. All three panelists have prepared short presentations on ways to recession-proof your business. We will have each of them present, and then we will have some time for questions at the end. Those joining us online can enter questions into the chat, and we will address them after the three presentations are done. Thank you, and we're ready to get started. Stephen?
Great, thank you. Let's grab this. Hey, glad to see you all here. Nice to meet you all. Let's advance the slide. Thank you, Charlie, for introducing us. So I'm here from Spector. Hi. I'm here from Spector Business Advisor Services. I know many in the room have worked some with me. Many also worked with my wife, Cindy, and we've been doing this. We started with Climb LDC at the time back, starting in December 2017, and our background really complements each other. As Charlie said, my background is a lot in sales and marketing and business development and strategy, and Cindy, operations and finance. And we've worked with collectively well over 200 borrowers, primarily through the Client Fund as well. So that's our background. We also personally have lived it. We grew up with both her family and my family being entrepreneurs as well. So we know what it's like as well. So I mentioned we've worked with over 200 businesses. I like to say we help entrepreneurs navigate through it all. Does anyone recognize this picture? Now, Sullenberger, who was the captain of that ship, sort of the entrepreneur of US Air Flight, whatever it was, he had to stay focused. He had to prioritize. And when you think about what his mission was, it was in these three orders. Because if you were a passenger on his plane, you got no communication. He did not tell you that the engines were out. He didn't tell you that he decided to go to Teterboro, not back, I think it was LaGuardia was where he took off. His first focus was aviate, keep the darn plane in the air. His second priority was to navigate, and he made a split-second decision to go to Teterboro, New Jersey. Finally, and only then, was to communicate. And by the way, no one had ever attempted to land a plane in the water successfully before. But he was able to do it because of his mindset. And I have some experience with this organization called Gazing, which I guess got cut off here, but And they do a lot of training about performance under pressure. And they work with teams. In one instance, it's a global company. They work with the All Blacks, which is a rugby team in New Zealand, and others. And what they focus is how to perform under pressure. And this connects with me because we see this on a personal basis. We see this a parent and dealing with kids. And that's something called either the red head or the blue head. The red head is that disorganized mindset. You know, when your kids, you have too much going on. Oh my God, I'm hungry, but I'm tired, but my friend's coming over. My parents want me to do this. You get disorganized and you can't focus. You know, you kind of get into the I can't, what can I do? And your mind wanders. And we all can tend to do that, especially when businesses have its ups and downs. But Captain Sullenberger had a blue head. He stayed focused on his task. There was a stillness in his mindset. He wasn't thinking about all the things that could happen, that it's going to crash and land, or as an entrepreneur, you're not going to make payroll. No one's going to come into my business. I mean, all the things that we think about as entrepreneurs all the time, not just when we try to sleep. He kept that. So I just mentioned this as we approach this, it's a need to keep calm. So one of the things that Cindy and I work with on a general level, we'll dig into specifics afterwards, is really focusing on what's leading and some of the leading and lagging indicators of your business. And the way to do that is to really know your metrics. We can be a hound on this. And I'm not going to read through all of these, so I'm going to highlight a few of them. But one is know your results, track them, record them. I don't care if it's, my father used to do it in an adding machine, in a piece of paper. Okay, it was a different era. It's so much easier now. Track them. You know, what is like the week before Thanksgiving? What is the month of November versus prior years? Really be able to spot the trends and identify where the business is coming from. But I warn you, there's one client, and Cindy spent a lot of time working with them, that over-obsessed by this. Every time he walked by the cash register, he had an anxiety attack. So you can't be too micro-focused on it. And you'd have to remind them, hey, you know, it's been raining for the last 3 days. That affects your business. But you want to choose an appropriate period and capture that information, retain it, and take notes. So when you look back at it a year later, what occurred with that? Or was that the week that the hurricane through King Charleston? Oh, that's why we're doing so much better. So you don't have an over-exuberance that suddenly business soared 40% or the converse. One of the things, I mean, there's a whole bunch of them here, but one is the cost of capital. A lot of entrepreneurs have gotten money from a whole variety of sources, including the client funds, or in short-term needs, they actually have to take a special loan, or on a personal level, they have a high-interest car loan. You really want to sit down and prioritize what is your cost of capital. And obviously, I know it's common sense, but really focus on the ones that have the highest cost of capital and chisel and chip away at those to get those done. Our goal, our client's goal, and particularly Cindy, it's my goal, working with clients, is to make them bankable so that you can work with Bank of America or some of the other finance institutions that can support you. So really the focus on capital. And as you think about recession-proofing your business, if you're, and I heard Cindy talking about this week with a client, as you paid it off, in this case, it was a $600 a month payment, rather than suddenly saying, hooray, now we have $600 more dollars, continue to pay it to yourself, not to yourself personally, not even to invest in the company, but pay it to the side, because you were able to operate and manage your business without that $600. Now let's get that $600, because one of the things you want to do is build up your reserve fund to be 6 months, certainly 6 months, preferably a year, to support yourself. There are others on here. I'm sure everyone can see them, but also trends in customer satisfaction, 5-star reviews. You want to strive to have the reviews. Depending on the type of your business, people are looking at them. The thing that we encourage people on this, and this helps in good times and bad times, whenever there's a review of your business, as the owner, comment on it. It's a 5-star, thank you, if they said their name, thank you, Deb, for blah, 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 blah. We appreciate your support of our business. It tells future people that you're engaged in your business. If it's negative, that's okay. I mean, it's not preferred, but you reply and ask them to, and put your email, ask them to reach out directly because you want to address it, because that communicates to somebody who's reading it that it was the exception and that you're engaged in your business. But this is one of the metrics besides, you know, margins and other things that matters. And you can see the health of your business and how you're being received in the community. I do want to jump up here about cost. A lot of you sell multiple products. Really break it down. Do you need to be selling all those things? What are the margins by item? You're in the food, some of the clients are in the food business and they have all these different products. They're really breaking it down, not why are you charging what you're charging and how much margin per item is there as well. So these are a variety of the metrics that we work with clients to really drill down and track what's going on so you know the direction of your business. But you want to have a cool face, a poker face as well. Now, one of the things that struck me is, I think, Jay, you want me to hold the questions?
Are you got questions at the end, please?
Oh, okay, yeah. Struck me early in my career, someone gave the example and they said, let's go out to the ocean. If you look at the ocean, when it's high tide, it looks spectacular. And you see the sun glistening on it, it's beautiful. But then when the tide goes out, you see all the crap that's at the bottom of the ocean. So my message here, as we think about recession-proofing your business, is the ocean floor is the same, whether it's high tide or low tide. So all those problems you have in the business, that toxic employee is still there. That they aren't less toxic because the business is going good. It's still something you need to address, just like some old car part that's underneath the water. So some sound business principles that we talk about, and obviously each business is different, but sort of diversify your revenue streams. So you're not as dependent on one thing. So in some businesses that has meant subscriptions or, where people are prepaying a block of 10 or 20 times so that encourages, one, it helps with the cash flow. It creates greater commitment to your operation as well. And it creates a more predictable revenue stream for your business. In some cases, it's bundles, right? And that's a way to upsell as well. So these are all things that putting in these elements help the health of the business to deal with the good times and the bad times. I've already mentioned the cash reserve, reducing expenses all the time. I don't care if this is the best year ever and sky's the limit. Don't take your eye off the ball on expenses. That is crucial to it. And the tendency is to be a little bit lax. And so the answer is recession-proofing your business happens when things are at boom times as well. And putting in those sound business principles. If you have employees, your employees are seeing that you're focused and caring about those expenses. You can't suddenly say, oh, the last 3 months have been bad and now we care about this. They're not going to respond and react the same way if that's the way you operate day in and day out, and how you approach and how you measure and how you track your business. There's other things like customer retention focus. Always attracting new customers. Again, business is good. You may feel like you're at capacity, but you're always wanting to have your door open, always be welcoming, always leveraging your existing customers for referrals. And there's a whole variety of things behind each of these elements that we work on with borrowers. I mentioned weak performers. This is probably one of the most common things that we talk about with entrepreneurs, and that is that toxic employee. But sometimes it's tough to replace them, and you let that go. If you think they're toxic, if you think they're a problem, trust me, all of your other employees know it, and they feel it, and your good ones will leave because of it before you act. So that's an important part, because when it comes time when your business is tough, it may be harder to have that disruption to replace them. We talk about automating a lot of these processes, especially after you've gone through a period of growth. Some of the manual things you did early on just aren't capable. Fortunately, with Client Fund, with Elizabeth Holt, which is one of the resources and helping entrepreneurs set up in QuickBooks to establish the right processes in place, allows that business to go forward. And finally, in order to weather and recession-proof your business, is sort of expand your team. And I say this not just because Cindy and I serve as a coach or advisor, but we often work with entrepreneurs and connect them with other entrepreneurs to sort of create a mastermind group. You may be in a business that's similar or complementary, but not competitive, so that you have somebody you can talk about these ups and downs, so you have confidence to act and prepare for the business elements that happen. And you want to have that coach, advisor, a mastermind group. And I know Cindy in particular is really good at this, is to be able to give somebody some tough love at times. You want to have surround with somebody who's going to say to you, no, and here's why. But you built a relationship strong enough with them that there's an element of respect, that you respect them, and they feel comfortable being able to say, let's think about that a little bit differently. And these are important steps to put in place today. So when the business does have its inevitable ups and downs, because nobody knows what the economy is going to take place, there could be geopolitical risk, there is health risk, there's all sorts of things that if we think about, we could dwell on, but we got to put the sound business principles in. And from our business and our support of the clients, we're trying to coach people to put those sound business principles in place. So that concludes my portion.
Awesome. Man, I need to stay here. This is me yesterday. Anyone have one of those days recently? Yeah, that's good slide.
My only word of advice, don't go home and tell your spouse they're in a redhead moment.
Yeah, no, didn't do that. I appreciate you. That was good. And man, this is a small space. So there's certain days everyone's like, well, I want to be tall. I want to be tall. I'll tell you, it's not always what you think it is. One of those things is showering, right? I go in the shower, I have to even when I started making a little money and I was able to get one of those showers that were a little higher, I still, because I've done it for so long, I have a real high shower. I still walk in like this because I'm trained for 40 years. But again, my name is Nick Correa and I'm with Bank of America, and my focus is on small business owners, primarily on underserved small business owners, and providing just resources, education, and access to capital. QR code right there. So if you guys have your phones, you can download my contact information. And I say this, he was talking about having a team, and I'm sure he would vouch for this, but one of the important people to have on your team is a banker. It's a necessary evil, right? Because as a business owner, you're gonna have to use a bank, right? You have to have money coming in, money out. So not necessarily look for a bank, but look to establish a relationship with a banker, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, a relationship, someone you can get to know, someone you can trust and go to advice, because banking is an important part of the small business. For all those that are like me and not tech savvy, that's my business cell phone. That is my email address, and please feel free to reach out if there's any questions that we don't get answered here today, anything I can help with in your business contacts. I'd love to. I do a lot of one-on-one consulting. All right, so we're going to cover three things. I should have put a deck just for this. All right, when we talk about recession-proofing our business, as a finance guy, I'm always looking at how we can optimize our cash flow. All right, establish cash reserves, and then consider capital options. So like lending, loans, things to help with that. All right. So with cash flow's super important. There's a lot of things that we can do to improve our cash flow. And what cash flow is it's basically the money coming in and money moving out of the account all the time, right? So for anyone in here that has inventory, that has an inventory business where you're selling a product, a couple of things, you always want to make sure that you have a record system, a record keeping system in place. There are softwares out there that can help you do that, but keeping good track of your inventory and not having a lot of excess inventory on the shelf that is not needed, it can be important. It can help improve the cash flow. So having really a really good idea of what is needed can help, because that's that cash flow. I mean, that inventory, that is literally cash sitting on a shelf, right? And that can impact the cash flow, especially during the lean times. But receivables is something that we can really dive into. So collecting the deposits upfront if it's customary in your business. So You know, I see a lot of business owners, maybe they issue maybe net 30 terms, right? All right, gonna give you this product or service and you can pay me in 30 days. Sometimes it's in industries where that's not even normal and they think that maybe we're being kind to our clients, right? I would not recommend doing that. If it is customary in your business to collect money upfront when the service is provided or even before the service is provided, then do it. I mean, the idea is we want to get our cash in our bank account as quickly as possible. So if it's customary in the industry, to get it up front, then get it up front. If it's not, if you're in an industry where everyone in your industry gives net 30 days, right? Well, you're gonna have a hard time collecting it up front. You're probably gonna have to move to net 30. But the point is getting into a habit where you're getting your money as quickly as possible without damaging customer relationships. In order to do that, sometimes you can offer discounts for people that want to pay in advance or quicker. And then also accept different payment options. How are you getting paid? And are you offering various ways to your customers to get that money in the bank account? Are you accepting credit card and debit card, right? Are you accepting checks? Are you accepting ACHs, wire transfers? A lot of time we want to make it very convenient for our customers to pay us, or for that money to get in our account today and not in 30 days or not in a week, right? Today. All these, and it's important I cover, like, these are all different strategies for cash flow. So, maybe focusing on this might get you your money 1 or 2 days earlier. Maybe this might, get you 15 days earlier, right? So a combination of these things can have a huge impact on your cash flow. All right. Is that in? I thought that was it. All right. Accounts payable. Right now, you're going to hear some reoccurring things to what Steve brought up. And so if they're reoccurring, don't be like, man, this guy's telling me the same thing. It should be a light bulb moment, like, oh man, well, if him as a business coach is saying the same thing as the banker, and you're going to hear some similar things from Chris, that should be light bulb moments, like, hey, that's something that maybe I should really focus on and dial into. But analyzing your spending habits, your expenses, are we having a steak for lunch every day? It's probably not a wise business expense, right? But this is something that we should be doing on a regular basis. Always looking where we can trim up. Is there excess money going out? Choose vendors that are flexible on their payment terms, right? If we have vendors, whether are they going to offer us net 60 or net 30, or do they want it up front? And is that customary in their industry, right? Like, we need to kind of own and understand, is this normal for my vendor to want the money up front, or is this negotiable and maybe they can give me 30 days to pay them? If you are able to move from net 30 to where you're getting your money from your customer to where you're getting it on the day you get you offer your service, but you're also able to negotiate with your vendor that you can pay them 30 days out. Well, now you have 60 days with that money still in your bank, right? That could be really important if we have something in the economy like COVID happened, right? You have that money in your account. Big merchant service providers that give you your money as quickly as possible. Most nowadays are pretty good at this, but they're not all created equal. So if you're taking credit card payments from someone, you want either same day or next day processing, not 2 or 3 or 4 days out on that. Because again, each day makes a difference, and all these days added up can make a huge difference. Want to reconcile frequently. Listen, if you're not an accountant and the idea is, I'll just pay someone to do that. Like, as a business owner, we're growing our business with the idea that, yeah, we're going to have people on our team like an accountant or a bookkeeper that can do this, but there has to be an ownership of your finances. So if it's something that you don't feel extremely comfortable with, then I would encourage everyone to really lean into this space and make it a priority to gain better understanding. Because like Steve said, when he very first started his presentation, what did he say? Know your numbers. Know your numbers. So things like income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, all these, if you don't know what they are or know how they operate, the terms are intimidating. The idea is intimidating, especially if you're like me. I come from an underserved community. No one ever taught me this stuff. And so the idea of that can be intimidating. Lean in. There's so many resources in our community on YouTube, right? Sometimes it's hard to trust. So I always recommend to reach out to someone like Steve or myself or Charlie or reach out to an expert to kind of navigate the small business ecosystem. But that's important. And as far as just making sure that you have eyes on these numbers and you're reconciling these stuff frequently. And then consider a small business credit card rather than a debit card. I'm not advocating for debt. I'm not saying go out and get credit card debt because credit card debt is bad, right? In fact, anytime I help a client with a business card, I always make them promise me that we're going to be disciplined to pay the full balance by the due date, because that's how you don't get charged interest, because credit cards can be crippling, right? So we want to be responsible with that. But the advantage to using a business credit card is something you use on your business credit card today. If you go buy a cup of coffee today, that payment's not going to be due for 30, 45 days. So that's going to keep the money in the account, right? So you can kind of see all these things will keep your money in your account for longer. And when you add up all these things, you can keep that money in your bank account for 60 days longer than maybe you are right now. Establish cash reserves. That's another topic Steve covered, and you're going to hear probably again after this. But I can't express the importance of this enough. Open a business savings account that is separate from your operating account and commit to putting a certain amount of money in that account every month that you're not going to touch, right? A minimum of 10% of your profit is kind of a rule of thumb, but that's a minimum, right? So I don't always set a goal for the minimum. If you look at your finances and you put 20%, put 20%. But the point is to build that up, the cash reserves, that savings account up to where you have 3 to 6 months of operating expenses in that savings account, rainy day fund. If COVID happens tomorrow or something else happened and everything shuts down and your income for your business stops, what are we going to rely on? We have 300,000 people trying to get a PPP loan or a grant or something, right? Everyone's freaking out. Some of us have experienced COVID 3 years ago, and it was scary times, right? The business owners that were prepared with 6 months of reserves in the bank account, they slept a little bit better at night. I'm sure it wasn't still easy and there's challenges, but it gives you time to navigate the current climate. And then consider capital options, right? We talked about a business credit card. Again, I'm not here selling debt, but and personal is different than business. When we're business owners, there are times where strategically it makes sense to take out a business loan for equipment or to expand rather than use our cash reserves, because our cash reserves can be important. So maybe the decision is, to buy a business vehicle, and you're thinking, well, I have $30,000 in the bank. I'll just spend that and then I'll make money next month. And you've depleted your business savings. Probably not wise. You want money in that cash reserves, and that has to be a priority. So maybe you go out and get a business auto loan, which would fall under equipment purchase, right? And maybe you finance that over 5 years, but maybe you pay it off early because you had some extra cash. Maybe you pay it off in a year. That might be okay, depending on what your cash flow looks like. But that could be a good strategic decision to make sure that we have enough cash reserves in our savings account. Working capital line, so a line of credit, it operates a lot like a credit card, but that can be helpful in businesses where receivables, there's a lot of receivables, and so maybe you're having to wait 30 days, 60 days for your clients to pay you because that's just the industry you're in. Well, a working capital line of credit to pay for some of the expenses until you get your money could be a solution, you know, depending on a lot of factors. Commercial real estate is an obvious one, you know, consider buying rather than renting, right? And how do you start getting in a position to buy? Cash reserves, down payment, right? And business development. So those are the three things. Now, obviously, they're finance based that I, as a business owner, would focus on when trying to be prepared for a recession. Anyway, I'm going to pass it over to Chris. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
I am Chris Quinn, like Charlie introed. I am the co-owner of eHouse Studio. We are an e-commerce agency based here in Charleston, South Carolina. What we do, we are e-commerce with a focus in UX, and we're different on purpose. And we say that, and what we mean by that is we really want to partner with our clients, which means it's a mutual investment, not financially per se, but what we want to put into it, we want the clients to get out of it, and we really want them to feel that it's a mutual partnership. Right now, we're a team of roughly 45 distributed individuals. So we have a team from coast to coast, a couple small teams working internationally. And after 20 years in practice, no matter what we're doing, if we're shifting our services, our mission remains the same. And that's to create fantastic experiences and build strong relationships. I think that what that means for us is we want the experience for our clients working with us, or our employees working with us, or our team working together. We want that relationship and that experience to be the same, and a great one. So, a recession story. We've been through this before. Like I mentioned, our business is over 21 years old, so we've seen a lot of ups and downs in that time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened first and then explain the pictures. So we had a downturn. Like these guys have talked about, it's going to happen, and you just have to be prepared for it. So what was happening to us during this time? Our services that we were selling were becoming more commoditized and harder to sell. So at the time, we were more of a general digital agency, and we were trying to sell just about anything digital under the sun. So you want a website? Sure, we can do it. You want an e-commerce website? Sure, we can do it. You want a logo? Sure, we can do it. And as technology was improving and getting better, that was making our job harder to sell. One of our clients held more than 50% of our total revenue, and we knew that they were going to go away. That was scary. So like I mentioned, we were more generalist versus being niche focused on our services and target market. So we're trying to go after everything and everyone. We lacked an internal foundation and internal systems, which made us basically crazy redheads all the time, because everything felt like it was on fire. And we lacked the financial discipline to proactively make decisions. So we were reactive. It was not a great recipe. The pictures. So ironically, at the time, we were operating out of this very office space. We came across this building pre-renovation, which is this picture here. It was, I think, an old doctor's office that I don't think had been touched since probably the 1970s. That's what this picture is. That's here. So similar to our business, we had to break it down to build it back up. This picture is my kids at the time. They're teenagers now, but we totally gutted the building, and then we started to build it back up into what it is today. That's what we had to do with our business as well. So that when we had another downturn, or we hit a recession, or COVID happened, we found ourselves in a more recession resilient space. So similar, I'm going to talk about the top 3 things that we implemented to navigate these business obstacles and create that future resilience. Our first what I'm calling recession resilient tool number one, we became more niche focused. So instead of being those generalists that were trying to sell everything to everyone, it's kind of like, trying to fish in the ocean. You don't know if you're gonna catch a little fish or big fish, and you're fishing in this huge expanse. So we researched the market. We didn't just go out there. We took our time and we really looked at what the market demand was, what technology was doing, and where there was a lack of service providers. That really led us to the world of Shopify. So we saw an opportunity where Shopify was developing their platform to roll out Shopify Plus, which was going to bring more mid-level customers to their platform. And they were going to roll out a partner program. And their initial goal was to roll out 25 agency partnerships. And so we were like, okay, we want to do this. We don't have any e-commerce experience, but we want them to pick us. So we cyber stalked them. We read up on Shopify. We went to their events. We circled them like sharks. We did everything just to basically beg and plead our way into that industry. Thankfully, we were selected. And so we started taking, again, it was more niche focused, but we had to take any e-commerce project that came our way, basically, so we could start building up that portfolio. And that really allowed us to shift our focus and narrow our services. To Steve's point, within those narrowed services, we also diversified our revenue streams. So we can talk about that a little bit later, but for us, we were really focused on creating a space where we could do projects in the e-commerce space, as well as continued engagements with our clients so that they stayed with us on a retainer basis. And so once we shifted into this space, it didn't mean that we had to rehire an entirely new team. We basically just invested and trained our existing staff to become those e-commerce experts. Second tool is to establish an operational budget. This is a book that I'd highly recommend if you haven't read it, Profit First. It's part of a system that I implemented. And these percentages are based on my business. So I would encourage you to find out what these percentages might be for your own business, but just for the sake of sharing and using an example. So I use a system where I allocate a percentage of every dollar that I make to a budget. And this is how at the beginning of a year, actually right now, I'm in the process of creating next year's budget. So what I do is look at what's our goal, our revenue, our sales goal, and then I break it down from there. So let's just say for the sake of easy numbers, your goal is $100,000. I would create a budget where I'm allocating 80%, so 80 grand of that goal, I'm going to set aside for operational expenses. And then I know that to next point, I'm setting 20% aside for profit. And then within that profit, I also break down 5% of that I can use to save for taxes. It's not really mine. And then the rest of it, that remaining 15% is going to paying myself. It's paying bonuses for my team, and it's building up that rainy day fund. How I do that, I don't know if you guys have heard of the envelope system. Dave Ramsey's a big guy on that for personal finances. I basically wanted to find a way, and Profit First also talks about this as well, about creating that envelope system, but for my business. So I used my partners at Bank of America, and I created 5 different bank accounts. So I have an income account. Every dollar I receive just flows into that income account. I have an operating account. So I transfer every dollar I get, I transfer 80 cents into my operating account. Then I've broken down my profit. So I have a tax account. 5% of what I get goes right to that tax account. I never even touch it. Then the remainder goes into the other profit account. So the other aspect of the operational budget, again, know your numbers, study them, look at them historically. They were trying to tell you a story so that you can make those blue head future-based decisions calmly. So again, these are examples for my business. I'm a services-based company. So my inventory or my cost of goods sold is my team. So I allocate 65% of that operating budget to pay for my team. That's why I budget salaries looking forward. What raises can I afford? Who do I want to hire? Comes from that budget. 10% of that is going to go towards marketing. 5% everything else, that's to pay my lawyer, that's to pay random costs. And then if that saves that 20% for my profit. And then the third tool is to commit to a business framework. We chose EOS, which stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's quite a mouthful. But what this really helped us do is figure out, why are we doing all of this and what does it look like? So with EOS, it helped us really clarify our vision. Part of it helps us look out and kind of compartmentalize what we're trying to do. So we look at 10 years out, what are our goals? 3 years, 1 year. And then from that 1 year, we're able to easily break it down into quarterly. What are we trying to accomplish this quarter? And then monthly, and then weekly. And it really helps you kind of get traction on where you want to go. It also helped us clarify our values. How are we operating this business? Why is it important to us? What do we expect our employees to act like? And again, that goes back to really supporting our overall mission of wanting everyone to have a fantastic experience and build a strong relationship with us. It helped us hone in on our clear market and ideal client. Again, becoming niche focused. It was scary because we were going from trying to sell to the ocean to trying to sell at a super small pond. But you're no longer, trying to cast everywhere and everything, but you're casting in a small pond and you're going to catch something. So it is totally scary to do at first, but mission critical. And there is huge value in, after time, becoming an expert in whatever space that you're in. EOS also helped us to sell with a proven process and a guarantee. So this helped a lot in the sales cycle when your clients are asking you, like, well, what am I going to get? Why are you different from the person down the street? If you could speak to your proven process and what you're going to guarantee as a business, it's really going to help you gain new clients, retain those clients, and that's how you're going to grow your business. So this, you guys have probably seen this meme. This is, again, like going back to finding your team, your expanded network. My husband and I, who's my business partner, we text this meme to each other multiple times a week. And if I get this text, I just know, like, okay, he's having one of those days. Because this is kind of what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. And I'm just encouraging you to enjoy the ride. It's a crazy one, but it's fun. And I truly believe that with every obstacle, whether it's a toxic employee or a recession or COVID, that obstacle is an opportunity for you to make positive change. So just a couple of fun facts. Who here is in their first 5 years of business? Okay, first 10 years. Okay. So eHouse, I mentioned, we are going into our 22nd year. It took us 6 years before we hit 6 figures. We finally hit 7 figures in our 10th year of business. And now going into our 22nd year, we're hoping to target 8 figures. But if we had not felt the pains of previous downturns or recessions, we would not have been pushed to change, create systems, and learn. So we are who we are today as a direct result of those choices and changes. Thanks.
Chris. So we are ready to take some questions if we have some questions for our panel. Chandler?
Yeah, it was from the first presentation, just sitting on it, because it was something I dealt with a lot. So I have a marketing agency and I started a previous one that was specific to like lifestyle medicine and direct primary care concierge. And so lawyers and doctors are the two ones who try really hard to fight reviews because a lot of the bad reviews are out of their control and they have the money to pursue it. The lawyers can do it themselves. And so the only caution there is like almost every review platform does not actually let you incentivize reviews. So you'll get away with that until you have a pushy salesperson who incentivizes a review and they mentioned that they were pushy and they paid me $10 to leave this review and that suspends your account. So I would have to coach that on doctors and lawyers all the time is like, if you get the bad reviews, to your point, respond courteously to it. Do not try to sue those people. Do not threaten those people. Do not try to incentivize reviews. It's like just and the way that I handle it now is like review and reputation management is like automated at the end of every job. Or if you have, deals that are really complex, it's just send it manually when a deal went really well and be like, just ask for the review. And I've built up in a year like 40. And I tell people like the safety standard is usually about like 50 in my experience, where you're kind of statistically resistant to the 1-star reviews. So I just felt like on the marketing side, that's important context, but
Yes.
a lot of people chase that and then they get their account suspended and then that's like they lose their primary source of business. So Google My Business or Yelp.
Absolutely. I think, great point. I think the reviews happen organically. And when you do get negative ones, my experience working with others and also my own personal experience in business, when you respond professionally and really look for search for truth, it's not uncommon for people to then delete their negative review after you've treated them appropriately as well. So, but you're right. The word of caution is, yeah, don't incentivize people to create reviews and do it non-organically, because ultimately that is not authentic and it'll hurt. So.
Octavia?
I used their 5 different bank accounts. I was,
yeah.
they're 4.
Yeah, income, operating, taxes, profit, savings.
That's the savings part.
Yeah, about the savings. I know you said 10%, have 10% of your income or your gross as your savings. Is that correct?
Of your profit.
Of your profit as savings. Okay. I also have this question. If you have, like, if you're starting up and you do have a certain amount of debt because you're starting, at what point should you start saving, even when you're in debt? I mean, I'm talking like 90,000 in. or-
Yeah, there's different schools of thought
Yeah.
on that. I'm a believer that, I would start to allocate to both at the same time.
Okay.
Even if it's small, even if you're starting with small, just to gain some traction. I think you can kind of do both. That's a general answer without knowing all the other factors of the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, without seeing everything, it's hard to say exactly what to do, but, I've known people that have done both, you know. A good portion of their saving or their debt, still a little bit goes into the savings account.
Almost treat your savings account as a debt that you have
Yeah,
to pay.
yeah, right, have to prioritize it, because, I mean, let's be honest, there's always something else we can spend money on. Right? I mean, always, and our brains are we're trained to justify that, you know, you deserve it, or this, but we have to make a decision that, listen, this building up cash reserves is a priority for my business. And because it is one of the priorities, this is what I'm going to do every month and then execute.
Okay.
And again, I put my contact information for a reason.
Okay.
So no business is too early stage, or there's not too much debt to sit down and take a look and see if we can help with that.
Marcella?
Yeah, I got one question for 3 of you. In my own experience as a business owner, a small minority woman business owner, and business for more than 20 years in Charleston, I honestly, I never request any capital access in any banks, in any, because I don't trust in any companies. That's the reason I never ask for capital or ask for money, you know, to help my business. But another thing I find out on all this navigation of my business experience, one thing is missing here today is the contracts. Like, for example, when you have contract with a provider, somebody who provides service or sales for your business. I had this bad experience in my restaurant one time. I think everybody who are here gotta be very careful in the contract when they sign any papers they can, because most of the times we are doing as an entrepreneur many things in one time, and we always like at the red heads and many days, you know. It's like many things is coming around, and they come the lady who provide the service for washing dishes, for example, in the restaurant, or for provide the service to clean the racks and sheets and everything you pay every week. And I remember one time I signed this contract and I never read it because it was a small words. And after 2-3 months, the price increased, double, triple, 4 times. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. When I sign it, it says you're gonna charge me $35 every week. Now you charge me $90. Last week is $200, and I pay you $800 to wash these rags in 1 month. That's not fair. And they say, well, you signed the contract. And when I review, I took to the lawyer after I took my time and said, you got a contract for 2 years. I'm glad it was only 2 years. After I finished this contract, I learned from my own lesson. I never signed another contract until I took to the lawyer, to somebody to help me understand. In the bad way, I learned that. And maybe we need to add that too, as a business is small right now, everybody started, maybe some of us started. But I would like to pass this to everybody here to know and understand. And it's, like I said, bad way I learned, and I don't trust too much, and I'm like, okay, come your company, give me the contract. And I scan and send to the lawyer, hey, please, can you tell me everything I gotta pay you or whatever it is, because I wanna make sure now what I sign it for.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's any type of contract, to your point, anytime we're agreeing to something and signing our name, we need to, it's one of those other the areas I talked about, taking ownership of the finances, whether that's a financial decision, and you have to take ownership of that. And so either you need to review it and have a complete understanding of what you're getting into, and if you don't understand, then you need to reach out to a resource partner in the community that can help you understand. It's extremely important. Thank you.
Nick, I've got a question for you about, what's your advice for building a solid business credit score, and do business credit scores differ significantly from personal credit scores? Is it business credit? I'm embarrassed to ask the question because I'm not even sure if a business credit score is a thing.
Yeah,
but
no, it's a
I
great
think
question.
it's because like I went to buy a truck and they said your business credit score isn't enough, so we have to put you on it personally.
Interesting.
Well, I've only been in business for 8 months, so I wasn't shocked. But
Yeah,
you were advising to pay off the credit cards completely, which I agree with in some ways, but also I've heard to build your credit score personally, it's good to carry some credit card debt. And so it's all French to me.
yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna try to answer this the best I can. There's a few points that you brought up that I wanna make sure I speak to, because this is important stuff, and then anything you all wanna add. So first, is there a difference between personal and business? Yes, there is. They are two completely different things. And they are scored, different agencies even score them different, right? Well, Experian and Equifax, they have personal and business credit score. TransUnion only does the personal, and then Dun Bradstreet does the business credit. So those are separate. Generally, in order to build business credit, we need to have pretty solid personal credit. So I don't want to say business credit is not important, because you saw right there that it is important, right? Personal credit is most important, in my opinion, because it's the foundation of building that business credit. And listen, if you're sitting in this room or on the Teams online and you have bad credit, like, you can change that. It is manageable. It's something that can be done. It's something that can be done in a relatively reasonable amount of time. I can tell you from experience, I mean, I suffered the crash of 2007, 2008, and I got buried during that time. I learned a lot, right? So that's, hopefully that answers the first question. Ways to build business credit. So one thing about business loans in small business is you will almost always have to personally guarantee that loan. Even if it's a business loan, you're gonna personally guarantee it. There's not many other options than that. So that goes with a small business credit card. that goes with a small business auto loan, that goes with a building loan. You're gonna have to sign, you're gonna have to personally guarantee that, meaning they're gonna pull your personal credit to make sure you're credit worthy. And then your name's gonna be on the contract, so if your business doesn't pay, they can come after you. That's normal, okay? What's not always the same between lenders and banks is even though you're personally guaranteeing that, not all banks will report that debt to your personal credit. Okay, so I always recommend as much as you can to keep your personal and your business finances separate. Credit is one of those parts of it. So, you know, if you're going to buy or you're gonna go get a small business credit card or a business auto loan, you want to ask the questions, is this going to report to my personal credit? And if it is, I would consider other options. All right. Does that answer your question? Did I answer all the questions? Was there something I'm missing?
And then I think the continuation of it would be, as we're building our small businesses, is the goal of one day being able to have our business credit and financially be strong enough so that we, like, when we go to buy equipment or go to get a line of credit or something, that what are the steps to take so that we don't have to insure it personally or put up personal property as collateral? Like, is that a reasonable target, or is it always one of those things where the bank is like, well, you got a nice house and if you want this much money, why don't we talk about your house?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, they're not always gonna wanna use their house as collateral in small business space that they don't do that much in the small business space except for SBA. There's certain SBA loans out there, not all of them, but some of them will put a lien on the house to securitize it. As far as putting a focus on not being a guarantor, and in the small business space, you're just gonna be a guarantor. And unless you grow your business to, I mean, and it's a gray area, $30 million in revenue. Once you start getting into that mid-size business, that's when you're gonna be able to qualify for some sort of lending that doesn't require a personal guarantor.
Okay.
But generally in the small business space, you're gonna personally guarantee it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't focus on the small business credit, because it will, we do look at that.
Yeah.
You just ran into it there, but you're still gonna personally guarantee.
Yeah. And then the small business credit scores work similar to personal credit scores, like there's no major glaring differences.
No, there's some differences, and we can meet one-on-one if you want to really dive into that, but you have to be a little bit more proactive on the business credit piece, because not everyone automatically reports. And so, like, to get a DUNS number, you have to take some steps and register your business, and you have to actually contact a vendor to have them report. So there's some steps in there.
Okay.
I got you, Octavia. I'm gonna add one more thing though. We always suggest to people to go on, get your free annual report at annualcreditreport.com. And you can just get that report, look at what the lenders are looking at. And you can see stuff on there that you can a lot of times make some revisions or make a couple of phone calls and say, hey, this is a mistake, this is an error.
Yeah.
And increase your credit score just by managing that. We've done that with a lot of clients where they just look at their credit report, help them make a couple of phone calls or write a couple of letters and question some of the stuff on there. And then the stuff, it goes away and you are able to increase your credit score that way. So I would suggest everybody do that every year.
One other thing, because this is important, and you asked this question, so I want to make sure that I put out, this is so important. There's not an advantage of rolling a balance and not paying the entire balance off when it's due. There's no advantage to that. That does not help build the credit at all. At all. In fact, even using the credit card has a very, very, very minimal impact, right? So I have seen people rebuild their credit from bankruptcy to 800 scores in 2 years by just getting a couple credit cards and letting them sit with a zero balance, not using, all right? But there's a lot to go into this. Like, if you're spending on a credit card, you don't even want to spend more than 25% of what the limit is at any given time. Even if you plan on paying the whole thing off early, you don't wanna spend more than what 25% of that limit is. Here's why, right? Let's say you have I'm gonna use very simple numbers. Let's say you have a credit card with a $500 limit on it. And you decide to spend $300 one day on that, with the intention that you're gonna pay that off by the due date, right? So you're gonna pay it off by the due date, there's not gonna be interest charged, everything's good, right? No, because here's what can happen. You have that $300 balance on your credit card, and before that due date, it's the time of the month where that credit card reports to the credit bureau. When they report, they're gonna report you as using 300 of that five, you have a $300 balance. Compared to 500, you're utilizing 60% of your available credit. That will negatively impact your credit score. Right, so you never even wanna use more than 45%.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you, and this is as someone who got into a lot of both personal and business debt in the past, and it's kind of climbed out of it. The distinction there that I wanted to touch on, because a lot of people think that is carrying a balance on your credit.
Yeah.
And what you touched on is what I wanted to make that distinction on, is like, a lot of people don't realize when people talk about carrying a balance, there's a difference between a reporting date and a due date. And so when they're talking about carrying a balance, you have usage usually somewhere between 10 and 30%. And then you pay it off before the due date. So it gets reported as you using between 10 and 30, but you're still paying it off so you don't accrue interest.
Right.
That's what can kind of technically help you, but again, it hurts you over 30%. And so really what they're looking for is like a mix of types of credit and like types of line of credit. If you have like, a home loan, a car loan, you have multiple different types of secured and unsecured loans. Because the other issue, and this is what happened to me, and this happens in a recession too, is if you qualify for a high line of credit, and you use zero of it every month, eventually they'll lower your limit. And that really sucks in a recession when you planned like to have credit available and your bank and all the banks suddenly pull it and you can't qualify for new loans. That's where the savings really matter. And so like that, when people talk about carrying a balance of diversity of credit, they're talking about the carrying a balance to the reporting date, not the due date, because the due date is then your current interest that you don't need to carry. So,
Yeah, to add to the personal guarantor, like a lot of us are like under the impression as small business owners, like, oh, all we have to do is just establish that credit line and with business, and then one day we will never be able, we don't have to use our personal credit. Like honestly, this is the first time like that I've been in business for going on 7 years, that it has been unpacked in the way you've done it, but I've had to learn through it. I had to learn through trial and error. But for example, with our business vehicles, we've grown really fast. Client, knew that, and we had to be personal guarantors. I didn't know to ask the question. Do you report to? Did not know. So, we ended up with a lot of vehicles on our personal credit, and when we wanted to do something personally, we were like, our debt to income ratio was like out the roof, and people would say, well, if you can prove and show your financials that you're paying these cards with your business, 12 months out, and we went back from day one, still couldn't get it. They say it, but in reality is just a whole nother story. So I would really say like, yes, definitely ask those questions. Do you report? If you have to, you will have to use it. When it's 30 million, revenue, yes, it would take a whole lot.
And
we
this
can
is,
get there.
and this is overall an example why it's important to maybe establish a relationship with someone that's a banker, right? For this type of stuff, because like with my clients, I meet with my clients twice a year. Twice a year we talk, and the conversation is, all right, where are we at today? What are our priorities? What kind of debt do we have? What's coming in? Like understanding these situations so we can bring things up like this, because you're not gonna know all, right? That's good.
One other quick thing, sort of outside of the numbers on the business credit, what type of business do you have?
I rent, equipment to construction sites.
Okay.
So
Probably significant investments if like.
I've got huge equipment costs, and then I've got monthly rental income trickling in, and so it's been a lot of upfront debt. Everything's going well.
Yeah.
But I keep getting, like, I'm glad to know that it's like mid-sized businesses are like, it's not just like a point in 10 months down, because I went to buy this truck And I was like, my business has great cash flow. Like, I don't want to put any more of my personal stuff on the line to get this loan. And I had no idea that I was like way off the mark. But I just, you don't know. You don't know. Yeah. So, but, so sorry, what do you?
No, I was just gonna say, sort of outside of the financial aspect of it, we oftentimes have clients looking at our business credit score to see if we're a sound business to get into business with. So that's, again, outside of being able to get credit cards or financial options, just is another kind of sniff test that potential clients can do a lot of the time.
It's one thing to add maybe to Charlie, share the organizations that Klein reports to, this loans.
Yeah, we report both business and, well, we collect personal credit, but yeah, we report our business credit, and we look at it. It's not easy to become a company that reports business credit, but we found that it was critical and critically important for our new clients to establish business credit. And we're looking at it as a way of helping our clients build their business credit, because for the most part, everyone pays on time, and that way they can, make steps forward with establishing their business credit. It was for many years that we didn't report, but it's quite a lot of work to be able to do so, but we found that it was like critical for us to make sure we do that for our clients. There we go.
I have more of a comment for everybody than a question, and it might actually feed into some of the banking. But I have a couple of checking accounts also. One of them comes with very low interest as a business checking because I keep a balance in it. And the balance I keep in it is every week I move over payroll and taxes. So I always have that minimal balance. And so I'm earning, even though it's minimal amounts of interest, I'm still earning on it. And when I have to pay payroll, I pay out of that, and I pay my taxes out of that. And it's already like set aside and I don't have to worry about it from the actual operating account. So check with your bank, because there might be a low interest that can help you with that.
Questions? I was gonna ask, Chris, you mentioned something during your presentation, which I really loved, and I wanted you to expand a little bit on, is on how people can become experts. Like, I really like that. And we have several small businesses here that I think have the ability to be experts in what they're doing. But if you can talk about that a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, first thing, I think it takes time. Doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of patience. So for us, job security is really important for us. So when we shifted and wanted to become more niche focused, it was important for us to train the existing team that we had. So for us, it meant becoming experts meant we were really narrowing what types of projects we were doing, so that the more we did them, the more we became experts. So it was really just shifting our focus, shifting our marketing, shifting who we were saying yes to, and doing it over and over and over. For us, since we're a technology company, it also means staying up to date on the latest trends. But what we're finding now that we have sort of established ourselves as, experts in this space, in the Shopify e-commerce space, it's really opened the door for us to have partnerships too. I think you mentioned, or maybe it was Nick, I'm sorry, finding complementary partnerships where we're not going to compete with another agency, but they're an expert in paid search and we're the expert in website design development. Well, we're partnering with fellow experts. And I would say over 50% of our growth the last 2 years has been in those partnerships. So becoming an expert has opened the door in terms of that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, everybody. I want to thank Emily and Tina, who helped put all that together. They did. I want to thank Rock Coffee Company, one of our clients, for bringing the coffee and treats. And make sure everybody, feel free to stay for a little bit and talk to anybody you'd like to, but also make sure that you help yourself to some of the coffee and treats we have there for you, okay? Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.